Democratic lawmakers in Indiana this morning are calling for a repeal of a new controversial religious freedom law. An Indianapolis Star editorial tells Governor Mike Pence to fix this now. Political leaders may add language to clarify that the law does not discriminate against gay people. Protesters spent another day voicing opposition to the legislation in the state's capital.
Governor Pence wrote an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal today to defend the law. He says, "I abhor discrimination as governor of Indiana. If I were presented a bill that legalized discrimination against any person or group, I would veto it." Indiana's new law contains no reference to sexual orientation.
This morning, the Indianapolis-based NCAA is leaving open the option to do business elsewhere in response to the law. College basketball's Final Four is taking place in Indiana's capital this week and will draw thousands of fans. NCAA President Mark Emmert told the New York Times, quote, "We have to be able to conduct our affairs and our tournaments in an environment that reflects the values of inclusiveness and diversity. Inclusion and diversity are real touchstone values in higher education."
Excuse me. CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman is with us. Sorry, Rikki, good morning.
Good morning.
That's okay, Charlie. Listen, the argument about this law that has reached such levels of hyperbole on both sides can make all of us cough. There is no doubt about it.
So why Indiana so controversial?
Indiana is controversial because it is not the same as the federal law. It is not the same as all the other states that have this law. And it's not the same for one particular reason, actually two. But let's get to the first one. It gives small businesses, it gives businesses the right to be able to use this law as a defense against a civil rights suit brought by, for example, a gay or lesbian couple that says, look, you did not serve me, meaning you didn't give me flowers for my wedding, you didn't take photographs for my wedding, perhaps even to accommodations, to housing, to things that we think of as discrimination, that you have the right under this law as a business, just like an individual or a church, to be able to say, without having anything to do with the government, that I can claim a defense of free exercise of religion. It is different than the other
then what's
states.
the counter argument, though, that Governor Pence and those are making, that this employs strict scrutiny and that there's a very high burden of proof?
Well, both very good phrases about the law. It does employ strict scrutiny and a high burden of proof, but it also is in a state, unlike, for example, Governor Malloy, who has now gone forward from Connecticut and is saying, we are not allowing state travel of Connecticut state employees to go to Indiana because it's discriminatory, because Indiana, as opposed to Connecticut and other states, has no gender anti-discrimination law on the books as a state. So here, gay and lesbian people, on the face of the law, are kind of floating out there without a protection.
Governor Pence keeps making it very clear that it does not discriminate. So why not clarify the law so that everybody can see what he sees?
Well, it doesn't discriminate because it doesn't use the words of discrimination. It just creates a claim or defense. But the way to clarify the law, Gail, is simply to throw it out. This is a law that, unless you put in an amended phrase that says this law does not discriminate against gay or lesbian people, what you really have is, how do you fix it? Do you do a Band-Aid on this law? You need to toss it out if, in fact, it's going to be used in a discriminatory manner. What you have here is really the fact of what I've often said is that it's not necessarily the reality of fear, it's the perception of fear. And a benign law, not so benign when you look at the intent behind it.
All right, Rikki Klieman, thank you. And we are continuing to follow developments in Indiana. You should log on to our digital network, CBSN, for updates throughout the day at cbsnews.com.